Alright everybody, welcome back to another video. So this is going to be the post-game analysis episode for the DreamHack Masters Marseille, and I figured out how to say it now, Marseille, European qualifier and the North American qualifier. So I previously predicted that in the European qualifier, we'll start off with that one first, that Heroic was going to beat Euronics and QB Fire was going to beat Valiance. That's because I've never heard of Euronics or Valiance. So, Heroic beat Euronics 2-1. 2-1, alright, but so be it. They won. They advanced, as I predicted. QB Fire lost 2-0 to Valiance. I didn't think QB Fire was a very strong team. I think everyone could admit that top 8 at the major was a very fluky run, considering, like as I said in my previous video, that they had one of the worst runs to top 8 at the major, one of the worst overall performances as a team to make top 8 at the major. Very surprising, and very underwhelming as a team since then and before the major itself. So here they've lost 2-0 to Valiance. Pretty shocking, quite embarrassing. Clearly just more fuel to the point that they're not very good, and it was extremely fluky as a run to the top 8 of the major for anyone that was a QB Fire fan. So, on the other side of the bracket, Space Soldiers easily 2-0, B-Pro, never heard of them. Space Soldiers is a good team online, expected. Space Soldiers advances. On the other side, North versus Squared. Yeah, okay, so 2-0, moving on. This one is Space Soldiers and North. In my opinion, Space Soldiers and North are the two teams that should have had the 2 slots to make it from this European qualifier, but unfortunately they were on the same side of the bracket, so that was impossible. As I predicted, Space Soldiers and North would meet in the semifinal, and Space Soldiers would win. They won 2-1, so it wasn't a complete blowout. This is good because I think as much this tournament was online, so I do think that North, as I said in my previous video, would beat Space Soldiers on land in a land environment. But Space Soldiers is a very good team, especially a good team online. So not surprised. As I predicted, Space Soldiers advances. What's something I could not have predicted though is Valiance not only beating QB Fire in dominating fashion in the 2-0, but also in a dominating fashion against Heroic 2-0 as well. So Valiance is coming into this event red hot, 2-0ing both of these teams. Both of these, I should say, tier 2 teams, but knocking on the door tier 1, in my personal opinion. So Valiance and Space Soldiers are going to come out of the European qualifier for DreamHack Masters Marseille. Alright, so we move to the North American qualifier now. So in this one, Renegades played Ghost in the first match here, and they won 2-0. I've heard of both of these teams. Obviously, I know who Renegades is. I've heard of Ghost vaguely. Not surprising, Renegades 2-0, quite easy game. Now, Splice played Luminosity. It was a 2-1 win for Luminosity. I previously predicted Splice, but I honestly could see it both ways here. Both of those teams aren't very good. So, Luminosity scrapes away with a 2-1 win over Splice. And on the other side of the bracket, Optic played Complexity. I predicted Optic to win this game in a blowout fashion, 2-0. I'm very surprised it was actually a 2-1. But regardless, Optic wins this game and they advance to the semifinals. On the other side, NRG played Torqued. Torqued, again, to remind you all, is the XI by Power lineup with 3 of them in AZK, Steel, and Swag. This team lost 2-0 to NRG, and I'll remind you of NRG's roster here of Ethan, Cirque, Daps, Fugly, and Breezy. Maybe in a best of 1, but in a best of 3 to lose 2-0 to this team. NRG is a decent roster and has some decent names here like Ethan, Cirque. Daps is a good in-game leader. Breezy, good in-game leader in the context of North America, I should add. So I wouldn't be surprised for NRG to win a best of 1, or at least keep the series close, but to win 2-0 against Torqued here, I'm not surprised. I don't think NRG played. I'm not giving props to NRG in this game. I think Torque just shit the bed, and honestly, this loss here has really put me over the edge that Torqued isn't going to be to the top level of Counter-Strike, let alone North America, with those XI by Power players. They weren't Guess they weren't very good at all, were they? Alright, so moving on. Optic then 2-0'd NRG. As I expected them to 2-0 Torqued, but regardless, NRG took Torqued's place and they 2-0'd NRG. They're a predominantly, well, not predominantly, but they have, let me double check here. Two EU players. Gade, three, my bad. Gade's Danish as well. So, 3 European players. So, it's kind of odd. 3 Danish players. 1 Canadian, 1 American. That they're playing in a North American qualifier. But, regardless, easily beat NRG. Now, Renegades, a team that I'll remind you has JKS, Azure, Jacom, Ustilo, and Nifty. A good team. JKS, Azure, Jacom, Nifty, they've looked good. Ustilo, but regardless, those other guys have been looking pretty good. Especially Nifty has been looking very good as their opper. They easily beat, well, not easily, I should say. Let me backtrack that. They beat Luminosity 2-1 at a best of 3. Solid, legitimate win. All right, they move on, and in the final of this, to determine who's going to this DreamHack Masters event, they beat Optic 2-1. This is surprising. I thought this could have been, a 2-0 or a 2-1. I did think Optic was going to win this, and I thought their European experience and having players like Config and Cajun B, at different points, one of the better players, some of the better players in the world, and for sure, I would say the best players at this tournament. At this qualifier, very surprising that Renegades overcame them. And I think overall, a great win for Renegades. And I'm looking forward to see what they can prove on LAN in a international LAN here. Alright, so now to the actual DreamHack Masters Marseille event itself. I'm going to save this for another pre-game analysis video once they start releasing the brackets. But for now, I'm just go over some of the teams in here. I'll reiterate the teams. So the teams that were invited were Astralis, Cloud9, Envious, FaZe, G2, Gambit, Liquid, Navi, NiP, SK, Fnatic, and Mouse Sports. The teams that have qualified are Renegades from the North American qualifier, Tai Lu from the Asian qualifier, and Space Soldiers and Valiants from the European qualifier. So this is a stacked tournament. Obviously, you have spots where you have like Valiant, Space Soldiers, where you could replacing that with teams like North, Optic, etc. But overall, okay. Good. This is a good tournament. I'm excited to see how this is going to pan out. This is going to be a big 250k tournament, the biggest tournament coming off of the major. Coming off of WESG, I would say. Even probably more important than WESG, even though the prize pool is so vastly different. I have to see the brackets before I give a legitimate prediction, but just because I want to make this video beef it up a little bit more, I'll give you my initial thoughts. I think Valiants, Tai Lu, Renegades are all going to be the free wins. Space Soldiers competed very well at the previous LAN event that they have attended in WESG. Again, obviously, granted, against very easy competition in comparison to these guys, but I do think they'll be flirting with the top with a spot up there. I also think Envious is going to get the absolute shit beaten out of them. So I'll say I'm not decided on a winner yet, but I'll say top 2 at this tournament. The top 2 teams are going to be, I would say, FaZe and Fnatic. Those are my picks for top 2. For top 4, obviously FaZe, Fnatic, I would say Astralis and NIP. Maybe Astralis G2, just because G2's new roster and maybe people might not be ready for them, seeing as they don't have a lot of tape or a lot less of the review, a lot of demos to watch, I should say. So I would say Astralis NiP or Astralis G2, but it might be like a NiP G2 thing. Who knows? 2 of those 3 teams. I'll go final answer Astralis G2. Final answer. All right, those are my top four. Um, top. We'll go fifth to eighth here. Fifth to eighth. So those three teams in the fifth to eighth slot, I would say. I would say only one of the North American teams hits that mark. I think it's going to be NIP, Navi. Scratch that. We'll go ballsy. I'll say NIP, Mouse Sports, and I think I'm really over Liquid and Cloud9 here. I'm gonna go with Liquid. So, Liquid, NIP, Mouse Sports. Those are the fifth to eighth teams. So then the bottom eight, I'm not gonna make it a particular order now, but obviously it's the last eight teams that I haven't mentioned. In case you're wondering, Tyloo, Space Soldiers, Valiance, Cloud9, Envious, Gambit, SK, Renegades, Navi. So, I think the worst team at this event is going to be Valiance. Second worst, Tyloo. With right there with Envious, and I will finish that prediction and go more into these brackets when they're released, and I can give you guys a proper analysis here. Alright, thank you all for watching. It was a bit discombobulated this episode, but I'm doing my best here. But this will be cleaned up for sure, especially, I'm doing a shorter episodes and shit just because this was a qualifier and I didn't get to watch all the games for these qualifiers, but I'll be doing my best to watch the games for the main event itself. For sure, semifinals, quarterfinals, finals, etc. Alright, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next pregame analysis.